Thank you very much. So happy to have you here. Happy that you are interested in this topic of sociocracy in the political field. I want to talk about it in the beginning a little bit on the general side and then show you a few examples where sociocracy has already been tested in politics and the opportunity and challenges we face with that. I talk about Europe, the European democracies. It's my context. We face not only one crisis at the moment, but a polycrisis here. And if you, okay, and if you look at our democracy, the representative democracy, we can see that politics face many difficulties at the moment. And one of the main problems is trust. Democracy is based on trust into the system and in the elected representatives as well. And this trust is eroding, and the situation is nearly getting dangerous. So it is consequential to ask, is there a better system? And could sociocracy be it? But we face a few problems here that I want to talk about. But first, let's take a step back. Sociocracy means we decide together as equals. It is designed to work in organizations to empower its members and to create good decisions in a respectful and fruitful way. Many of us have had the chance to witness the sociocratic mindset as a powerful way to self-organization and experienced the many benefits ourselves already. We are using the sociocratic circle method and its 4 principles for years now. We have gained a lot of experience in how to effectively build a sociocratic organization. A structure based on circles in which people can talk directly to each other, the double linking of the circles, the open election of the circle members, and decision making in consent are proven methods of self-organization, self-determination. But can we apply it to politics, and how? Political action is different from running an organization. It's not about community, it's about society. It's a question of scale and distinction. I see several connections, and one of them is particularly striking. Sociocracy has proven to be an effective tool of supporting joint decision-making. What makes politics such a unique field? Because all people are different. Fundamentally, I mean, it's not just a question of skin color or language or culture. We are deeply different. And that's why we need political action. It is political action that enables us to turn the chaos that accompanies diversity into something we share, to come to sound decisions, to organize a good life. In politics, unlike in private encounters, we cannot choose who we are associated with. All people are participants here, regardless how much or how little we share with them. Above all, we live in a representative democracy at this point of time. That makes it nearly impossible to directly connect sociocracy with this kind of politics that is based on competition, majority vote, nation state, and political parties. Attempts to connect politics and sociocracy have been around for quite some time. In 1990s, Scherer Entenberg has contemplated how a government could be organized sociocratically. He assumed that if a sufficient number of organizations, groups of people, and families are organized in a sociocratic way, they will automatically want a government to be organized in the same way, offering them the opportunities they are accustomed to. In other words, he is assuming a bottom-up approach in which everyone learns to act politically in their everyday lives and then call for its application to a larger structure like a government. Does this mean that sociocracy is the golden means, as Entenberg titled his article back then? We cannot answer this yet. We are currently busy laying these foundations, the bottom, all the organizations and schools and families from which we might rise to build a government. What we can say sure at the moment is that there are some promising efforts to introduce a sociocratic mindset into our political system while playing it safe. This is important because at this very moment, we should avoid anything that puts our democracy at further risk. Besides Entenberg's theoretical model, there are a few approaches that test sociocracy in political field, and I can name these examples in my context. One is the Sonic concept. We heard about it already. This is one idea to transfer the Indian Youth and Children Parliament into the European context, and at the moment even on a global context in the Western societies. And it came from an EU project a few years ago, where I think 40 people together designed this concept. And one city, the city of Augsburg in Germany, is trying this Sonic concept, is probing it in one neighborhood since 2 years now, quite successfully. The other model we can talk about is the Sociocratic Youth Parliament in Thermi in Greece, where they really tried to establish from scratch a youth parliament in a region. And yeah, it's also inspired by the Indian youth parliaments. A very different approach is the neighborhood council in Vienna. This is the second round now, the second year it's running. Florian Bauernfeind from Sociocratic Center Austria started it without any funding or with very little funding, and he's doing it on with all his heart. And the interesting thing is they see the district as the neighborhood in a little bit a bigger context, and with a few different steps they create a neighborhood circle where with an open election people get re-elected to represent the neighborhood and decide on topics that are concerning this neighborhood, and then to bring it in front of the political bodies. And from that, we had the idea we must find the missing link between citizen councils, sociocratic or not, to the politicians, because there's always this border between these two. The citizen councils work on really good ideas and solutions, and the politicians are not listening very often. They don't have to. They can take the idea or not. And with this Sociocratic Consultation Council, we tried out a council where politicians and citizens are sitting together in one council, and they decide together on specific topics. It was the idea of learning to trust each other. We had only the money to do it once, and we are at the moment searching for more funds. And the other one that I want to talk about now is the Municipal Council in Utrechtse-Heuvelrug. This is a community in the Netherlands. I conducted a small survey last summer, and I learned a lot about how to implement sociocratic elements in a political council, because they do it since 2014. After a fusion of 5 autonomous villages, they had a big problem in the collaboration of the new municipal council. It was very difficult to start it from scratch, and people's trust in politics was at an all-time low. A group of citizens stepped forward and recommended, together with the mayor and the head of the office, to create a new way of cooperation in the council itself. The citizens called themselves the bridge builders, and they had support from the Sociocratic Center in the Netherlands. The goal was to establish a fertile political culture in the council, and to enable citizens to participate in a meaningful way to achieve better results for the whole community. Based on that recommendations, the council implemented some sociocratic principles and adapted the consent decision-making process to the needs of a political body, and they called it BOB. They didn't use the word sociocracy because they wanted to avoid any struggles in a methodological sense, so that people don't get stuck on the questions of methodology. And they called it with the Dutch names for picture forming, opinion forming, and decision making. So Bob is following the three distinct steps of sociocracy. An agenda committee assigns a topic on one of the council's meetings and decides if it is a Bob process or not. And all parties are part in this committee, and they decide by consent already. The process starts then, a process about a specific topic, with a picture forming. Citizens are invited to contribute their information and their opinions, and it takes place in the town hall, or it can be somewhere else in the village if it fits to the topic. And the invitation is by the council. Depending on how controversial the topic is, either 100 people or more attend, or sometimes nobody, because it's not of any interest. They leave it to the council to decide it. A week later, the second step, opinion forming, takes place. This is in an exchange of views between the councillors only on the topic they learned about last week. The citizens' role now is to listen, which they often do, as all the meetings are broadcasted live online. And if they do not like what they hear, they contact their political representatives. A week later or so, the decision is made. And now the councillors decide on a proposal that was developed during these two steps, and they decide on having no objection. Currently, 2/3 of the council's decisions are made in this way, especially the complex and difficult topics. This may sound time-consuming, but the careful preparation makes it possible for 20 and more decisions to be made in one evening because they are well prepared. And more importantly, the decisions are accepted by all members of the council, all parties. And with that, they overcome the government-opposition duality. A sociocratic approach requires a common goal, also in the political body. To this end, the representatives of all parties decide on a joint legislative program after the election. All parties together. The issue they decide to work on over the next 4 years are linked to the party's promises to their voters. The advantage of this jointly supported alignment and is a coordinated program. The disadvantage is that very controversial issues can be excluded and postponed for years. In the last legislative period, it was the topic of wind turbines in their very beautiful landscape. But when we discussed it, I saw if we look at it at a sociocratical way, we can say these very controversial topics are not ready for decision now, and they can use the time to work on it. Bob involves citizens only at the level of information and consultation. They can participate in shaping the picture and influence agenda setting through various formats. Other types of participation are not provided for and do not seem to be missed. Confidence in politicians is high at the moment, and if citizens really feel ignored or too little attention is paid to an important topic, they form a new party and stand for election themselves. So last time they started the Party for Animal Welfare, for example. The sociocratic Bob model has aroused interest in the Netherlands and around. However, it has not yet been implemented elsewhere. Transferability is generally context dependent and requires careful adaptation. It's not just copy paste, and that makes it very difficult. So what I can see so far, sociocracy formed a new culture of the political discourse in the local council. Decision-making is considered way more efficient by the elected representatives I asked. Decisions are far more fact-based and accepted by all parties as they are the results of consent. The biggest impact is the cooperative atmosphere and general mutual respect in the council. On the side of the citizens, we can say citizens know how to become involved and very easily and have gained trust in their elected representatives. As all parties are involved in a consent decision, there is no majority coalition government or opposition in the traditional sense. Power plays between the parties have been reduced to a minimum. This has significantly strengthened the constructive forces, and the parties are now more focused on the thematic issues. Sociocracy has proven its worth in politics in Utrechtse-Heuvelrug over 3 legislative periods now. And now that politicians and citizens know the Bob method well, the different local councillors I spoke to can no longer imagine any other form of political decision making, which is very interesting. What I learned from that for the prerequisites of sociocracy in political bodies is we need the openness to a new political culture. There has to be maybe some problems in the political body that opens their view to something different. Then all political body that's working with sociocracy also needs a common goal. And all members have to be fundamentally committed to fact-based decisions. Power play is not the game in this kind of body. Benevolence and respect towards all members of the committees is a prerequisite, but is also a result of this process. There is a jointly developed decision-making structure with professional moderation and process support. It's impossible not to get this from outside and to have the openness to get this support. All members of the committee are trained in the consent method and are committed to solving problems in their sphere of influence together. So to come to the end, and I'm looking forward to your questions because there's so much more to talk about. We did this what we see sociocracy's benefits in political field in a webinar on the European City of Democracy, Capital of Democracy, where it's also stored. You can find it on sociocratyzentrum.org page. And Barbara Strauch and a few other people designed a workshop for mayors in Austria coming from these experiences. And we, at the moment, try to find some mayors or head of office who want to join us to experience this. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And I'm also excited about the questions. So let's see if you can write your thanks or reactions in the chat if you have some already. And if you have questions, you can either raise your hand if you want to speak your question verbally, or you could write it in the chat, and I will try to balance the chat and raised hands. And maybe while you think, I can ask my question. I have 2, but I can start with one. It's about, well, you just mentioned the prerequisites for sociocracy to function. And I was wondering if the councillors were, I think I'm understanding they were already elected when this idea was presented. So how did they welcome the idea, and was there some pushback, or did some people leave, or were they super open, and how was it presented to them to make it kind of acceptable?
Yeah, the thing is, they had a fusion of 5 municipalities to one. So this is already a little bit difficult. So, and they were working for 6+ years and were not satisfied and could not find a good ground to work together. There was still this separation of these different villages or municipalities. And then they decided to build a new center for the new municipality with a really, now it's standing there and you can see it's beautiful. It's a really middle of the community. It offers so much to the community. But at that time, everybody, the citizens thought it's too expensive. It's crazy. Why do you spend so much money on just representation? And they got really angry. And the representatives got insecure and had a lot of trouble inside the council. So they had a really big problem. And that's why they were open to listen to these bridge builders, people coming out as citizens from their municipality that came to them and said, come on, we have to find a better way. And the Sociocracy Center Netherlands was assisting and said how to smoothly, without talking too much about methodology, could we implement this, because we know it's helping you. And they tried it out in 2 sessions, and then the council decided altogether in consent that they want to do it. And then it started in 2014. I see a bit that you need to have a problem so that you want to think about the structure you're used to, that you want to revise it, that you're open to think about it in a new way. And usually it's the problems that help you. And they had no pushback at all. So they started it and they went on. And when I was last summer was talking to these representatives, a few of them, I could do, they were just looking at me, what are you asking about? It's so great. How could anybody want to go back behind that?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so great. So I was wondering if anyone like retired or left their seat, but no, everybody
Not
stayed.
directly, no. Maybe some there was still 2 or 3 persons in opposition, but they were elected. They didn't go away. And
Okay.
maybe sometimes people did not feel like I want to become a counselor in this kind of because they want a stage for themselves, for their egos. So they see this the wrong place for me.
Yeah.
Maybe this effect is working. Yeah, it's very constructive. You can look at their council meetings. They are all online, and you can see there is a little bit of power play. You know, nobody can avoid it completely, but in basic it's working really great if I compare it to other councils I know.
I guess they're in German language though.
No,
Or
Dutch.
Dutch. Yeah, even worse. I guess no. Anyways. Okay, well, I want to leave space for other people that have questions. We have 3 raised hands. Yeah, so let's do Jerry and then we'll go to Anne.
So yeah, this is a great story, Rita, and I'm curious. I usually think of sociocratic groups as being small, like 6 to 8 people. 29 people, how do you do rounds? How does yeah, just what are these, what has worked, what's been challenging? How do they do the consent decision making with a large group?
Yeah. And the thing is, I didn't mention that properly, that they work in councils, in committees. And they usually do the first 2 steps in the committees, where they are up to 7, 10 people. Depends on the parties, because every party has to be part of it, a political party. And so they are sitting in these committees, and the committee makes the proposal for the council to decide in the end. And in the council, they just ask, is there any objection? And if there's none, it's decided. And that's how they can do 20 and plus in one evening, because it's already discussed. Everybody had his say, and so they can do it in a bigger group.
Okay,
it's quite fascinating. Yeah. And it shows that the other council members have the trust in the other members, that they will do it in a well-fashioned way.
Great, thank you.
So it still depends on our on our idea of small groups where you can talk face to face.
All right. So let's hear Anne's question, and then Francine.
Hello. So I just find this really so inspiring. And I just had 2 questions. One is there an effort to sort of disseminate what's going on? I mean, obviously you're here at this conference talking about this, but I kind of feel like it might be like, the great ideas all pop up in different places at the same time. That's my first question.
Yeah, the thing is, there is an old article that was written immediately after the start in 2015, I guess. Sir Dromme, he is a professor in the Netherlands, and a lot of people, Nate Whitestone also joined him. They were writing something about it, but it gives a little bit of a different impression because they thought more from the perspective of participation, citizens participating in decision making. And when it evolved, and when I looked at it now, 20 years later, I could see it's not so much about participation of citizens, it's about the culture in the council. This is the main point they are working on, and that's where they stick to. And at the moment, I'm writing an article. I try to bring it out in a scientific publication because then it's out, then it's there. And I have a short paper, just a policy paper on our website, Sociocracy Zentrum Austria. And if you look out Netherlands, I think it's in German and in English, I guess. I don't know at the moment. But if it's in German, you
Okay,
can translate it easily.
okay,
Yeah,
wonderful.
but
And
I'm
then,
working. Yeah, please.
yeah, no, that's fascinating. And then my second question is, you mentioned there's financial obstacles to reproducing what you're doing, and if you
Yeah.
would mind talking about why that is.
Yeah, the financial problems is about all the other efforts that we are doing in Austria. For example, this neighborhood council or this sociocratic consultation council, because we always get a little bit of funding, but you have to do it for a longer period. To do it just once is nice, and we made a research on it, and we are publishing about it at the moment. But you need the repetition. You need to do it more often, so that the feedback was great. Everybody was astonished how good it worked. The politicians together with the citizens. The politicians were so amazed how constructive and well informed this meeting was. All the benefits we know, he was surprised about, because he knows political council meetings and committee meetings. But to convince them to go on with that, we would need more. It's not enough at the moment. And in Utrechtse-Heuvelrug, there is no financial problem. They have their kind of council meetings now, and they just do it. What the problem is the transferability. So if we would like to do it in another community in the Netherlands, because quite a lot of people were visiting Utrechtse-Heuvelrug for this and wanted to know about it, but they did not really implement it. And also in Austria, it's difficult because we have a different situation than in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, the mayor is not part of the council. He is a kind of moderator of the council. He has a 6-year period, while the council has a 4-year period. So he is staying when all the others are going and coming. New people are coming. And he's doing a moderator role. So for the mayor, it's more easy to guide the council in this way. So we have to find something how we could help Austrian mayors. That's what Barbara is trying at the moment. How we can help Austrian mayors who are willing to be more the moderator of their council than the big boss, what they are now at the moment, deciding on everything alone, or too many items alone. And even they don't inform their council members on so many things. So it's really in a bad place at the moment. Did I answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
I could fold in one question from the chat just while we're talking about that, if that's okay with you,
please.
Martin.
Yeah.
Rainer is asking, what are the funds needed to implement sociocracy in this context? So I guess like specifically, what costs money? I could think about training and coaching. Are there more things?
Yeah, a little bit. Also, you need some evaluation to take a look at it. How does it work? And to look at it from different angles with a different, usually sociological tools. And you need, mainly you need time. You need politicians to take their time to learn something. And you need, and this is not a question of money, but it's the scarcest resource we have there. Because their timetable is usually very packed. And in Austria, except of the mayor, all the other council members are doing it without payment, besides their jobs in a small town. It's only the big towns where you have a paid council. Yeah. So if you want something from them and their time, so you have to have a good idea and be careful with it. Yeah. But as you say, financial items, it's mainly Betreuung. Doesn't just come to my mind.
Training?
The training. Yeah.
Okay.
Luckily,
that was a similar word. Intuition worked. Okay, thank you. Let's go with Francine, and then I have a question in the chat from Matthew.
Merci, Audrey. Oh, thank you, Rita. This was very inspiring too. I come from the perspective of Canada and Saskatchewan, in the middle of Canada. And my question is, you talked about the counselors, and I'm wondering about the administrators. Is there a tension between the administrators and the counselors? I know from past experience, I've been both an administrator and a counselor, and I know, that can be very delicate. So, what would be your in your experience, your recommendation if I was going to speak to my council? Should I be speaking to the administrator first, talking about this?
Yeah. In the Utrechtse-Heuvelrug, the initiative started with the citizens coming to the mayor and talking about their idea. And the mayor immediately took the head of office into the meeting. And so the head of office of the administration, but he's not a political body, but he's an administrative head. And the mayor together designed this with the help of this bridge builders. So these were our team. And I think this is kind of the success story recipe. And in the as I understood it, in the picture forming rounds, they tried to integrate the administration and their views and their knowledge. But when they are the opinion rounds, it's only the political body, because it's their duty to find their own and a common opinion on the topic. That's why we vote for them. That's their role, and that's how they play it. And if there's any insecurity, they go back to picture forming. It doesn't take part often, but the idea is we can go back. And so they decide on where to build the new housing and where to expand the nature reservation and to where to put the asylum seekers and how to deal with them and all the topics a municipality has.
And thank you very much, Rita. That answers my question, and also appreciating the, how you've named it to fit the community. The Bob. That's I'm sure that could be applied in in our own communities too, to be adapted. So thank you, Rita.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, this was interesting for me because I thought, oh, sociocratic is good to talk about it, but they were very hesitant because they knew that if they open the floor to discuss the methodology or to think about, oh, this could be a religion or something like that, frightening, they have lost. So I think it's quite clever to adapt it. If you ask them, they talk openly about it, but not in the first hand. And I thought this is maybe something that we could learn.
Yeah, it really depends on the person. Sometimes having a name will give trust, and sometimes it will make people afraid. And one thing I'm hearing in your reply is how, like, the people were like really open-minded and wanting to collaborate, but they didn't have the structure, so it didn't work. So that's one example of like adding great structure and it makes things work. But if you didn't have the same people with as much willingness to collaborate, then maybe the structure couldn't have been implemented. So there was like a convergence of
I'm
right
not so sure
people.
about whether they were open to a respectful and engaging kind of council, because they came from this classic background with parties and struggling. And as we saw, party politics means you have to combat, you have to struggle, you have to be the better one, you have to be competitive, and this means it makes it difficult to cooperate. So
Mm.
I'm not sure whether they were too friendly with each other, but the problem was big enough, and they saw that they lose their citizens, and that they're all losing the next election when they go on like that. That's like it sounded to me. And then they had to learn something new. And now that they have this culture, you get these people who want this kind of working together, even in a political council. It's like what we learned from a hospital when they have this kind of sociocratic management. People come specially to this clinic because they want to work in such an environment where there is a benevolence for them. Yeah, and I think it's quite the same in this context. Citizens can better imagine to be part of a council where they talk in this way with each other instead of fighting. So it's easier to say, okay, let's make a party. Let's do 4 years in the council. Yeah.
So great. Let's go to Matthew's question in the chat, and then we'll go to Rob. So Matthew's asking, in Holland, is it uncommon to have members of the public appear and speak at council meetings? I guess out of that town.
Yeah. The public is invited to talk about everything they want in these picture forming meetings. This is the place to be and talk. In the opinion rounds and in the decision rounds, they don't have a voice, because this is part of the political body, and they can listen and watch it, and they do it quite often as the numbers show. The head of office can see how many people joined this meeting, or did it look at it afterwards, so he has quite a picture about it. And yeah, as I said, if they don't like what they hear, if they disagree, they call their constituents and say, I didn't like it, what are you doing? So it's not so much about participation and asking the citizens to decide. The decision stays with the political elected persons. That I had, and this is something I had to understand. I only could understand it when it was there, because what you read about it and what you hear about it sounds different.
Interesting.
Yeah, because we always have this picture of include everybody in the decision. So it would mean, oh, please let the citizens decide. So make a citizen council or something. No, they don't think like that. Their idea was, how can we improve our council so that it works better and people can do their business, whatever they want to do, and do not have to worry about and struggle and fight for thousands of topics in their community.
And that fits with the concept of domains and roles in sociocracy. It's not like everyone decides everything.
They didn't take these elements. They took only the decision-making process. Yeah.
But the thinking is coherent. It stays coherent with the philosophy of sociocracy, of like trusting that someone can make a decision that will affect you, but they will ask for your input. So
seems to be. Yes.
So
and I want to add, the citizen participation even got lower than it was before.
More trust.
So you could say, oh, this is a bad sign, but you can look at it. It's a good sign, because they trust their constituents and they think they're doing a good job. And if they're not doing a good job, they don't get elected again. point.
Nice.
Yeah, and they can care for other things. Rob is waiting with his
Yes,
question.
let's go to Rob.
Oh, well, I'm waiting very patiently. So thank you. First of all, nice to hear you presenting about experiments in the Netherlands. I'm from there as well, and I've not been involved with the actual evolution in Utrechtse-Heuvelrug. I have been a bit involved in some articles that were written about it. You mentioned the one from Stuart Romme, so I just added some 2 links to those articles in the chat.
Thank you. Great.
For the ones who are interested. So nice to hear. A question that came up to me. You were referring to the importance of having a shared objective as a council to make this method of decision making work. I recognize that. I haven't been following it in recent years, the local political situation in this community, but I was wondering, do you know if there have also been more populistic political parties in this council? Because I would imagine that could make finding common grounds or shared objectives as a council more complex.
Yeah, I understand. They are in the 3rd legislative period now, and they said, I have seen that the more populist parties are not present in Utrechtse-Heuvelrug at the moment, still. They vote for the populist parties in the national elections and in the, I don't know, the next regional. They have voters for populist parties, but not on the local level. And yeah, this is helpful. And they found out, not in the first term, the first legislative, but from the second legislative period, they tried to make, just in the beginning after the election, this common goal, so that every party has something that they can work on and the others agree to help them. And it's not so much about how many votes a party has, but is it possible to find an agreement in the council on this legislative paper? Okay. And this is quite an effort for them, but they say it works really well, because then they always can refer to it, like we do it in Sociocracy, that we say, okay, we work on our aim. Is it still serving our aim or not? And they say it's very helpful. All parties are involved, so even if you're the big one or the small one, doesn't matter. You have the same voice in this meeting. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it sounds very good, and that will maybe a bridge to a second question. Did you, in your research, did you find any hints on why hasn't this been spreading more to other municipalities in the Netherlands? So there has been some articles, but
yeah, I have no answer to that at all, because I was just looking at Utrechtse-Heuvelrug, and I only could talk to I think 10 councillors. I couldn't talk to the public because I didn't have enough funding. And what I learned from Walter, who is the head of office, that a lot of people came to listen and to see and to ask him, and the mayor, Fritz Snaafs, and they were quite fascinated, but they couldn't convince their council to try it. So, yeah. And in my discussion with Walter, we came to the conclusion that it might be the problem is not big enough, so that you can stick to your old ways of doing it. Or too many of the councils would like to stay there because it's beneficial for them. So
yeah, maybe it's a bit connected to finding, I don't know the English word for it, but after the election, agreeing not with the coalition, but with the full council. Yeah. That is also in some municipalities going on, or some have tried and left it, but yeah.
It might be frightening in the beginning, so that some parties might think they lose something.
Yeah.
But Walter sent me a few articles that this legislative program is done by quite a lot municipalities now. So this is an interesting point.
Okay.
But I couldn't research on that yet.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I was just curious because I heard about it and we were talking about it so much, and then I wanted to know what is really going on. And so I had the opportunity to go there and
Yeah.
ask.
Right.
Okay. Are there more questions? I have one, but I want to let people that have not asked questions have a chance first, but I think it's all right. My question is about the professional moderation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, was it just at the beginning that they need an outside facilitator, or do they get someone who's elected to be trained? Do they switch the facilitation? How does that work?
So in the beginning, they had this facilitation and this help. And then the mayor and the head of office learned it. And the mayor is the head of the big councils, and he's moderating it. Not always he can delegate it to others, but he's the guardian of the process. And in the committee meetings, they try to train it that everybody can do it. So they are switching moderation now after 10 years. And some do it better, some not so good. It always depends on the persons. But the general idea, so that everybody learns it and that all members can do the moderation, is also there. And they don't always stick to the process that everybody really has one after the other in the committee meetings. But if it's getting rough, they go back to it. So I think that's a good sign. So, and they get a small training when they enter the council,
Mm-hmm.
where they get the information about the culture in our municipality. So, and the elder members teach them. You cannot teach a councillor, but you try to give them an idea. And mostly they learn by doing, because the council doesn't change completely every legislative period. There were 3. They were still there from before. They knew that the times before the Bob system, and everybody said it was horrible before. And they're so glad that they installed it. I think it's mostly that people don't know how beneficial it is and how much it could help them, how much easier their job could get in the committee and council meetings. But we have to
Right.
find something to show it to them, to
Mhm.
let it so that they get a feeling about it, that it's not dangerous.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing in like NGOs in Quebec or cooperatives. They just accept that their meetings take so long and that it's inefficient and that people interrupt each other. It's like the water in the fish tank. We don't know that it could be a different water, so we don't even try to find a solution. So how do we get the word out there? That's the
Yeah,
challenge.
and we have one big enemy. This is power play.
Yeah.
Because when you start up with the sociocratic mindset, you must get rid of the power play, or you will get rid of the power play.
Mhm.
And there are sometimes politicians that really want to stick to it because it's beneficial for them, and they will do everything to avoid it.
Mhm.
So maybe a new generation, maybe more this Entenburg idea. So the more people learn it in schools and organizations, the more people maybe once get elected and say, hey, come on, let's do it different.
Yeah.
If I may add to that, I'm working in another municipality in the Netherlands, and there's also, well, some trouble in the cooperation within the council and between council and the how do you say that? And not the mayor, but the
Administration.
and the administration is the civil servants, right? So I'm looking for the political bosses that are in the coalition. But
Yeah.
I don't know the
The leaders
exact wording.
of the fractions of the, I don't know it in English.
Yeah, okay, but so there is a lot to win, I think. But what I hear there, it's partly the parties, political parties from that are within the coalition, so that are in the lead, say, well, they don't see the problem, and the ones are in the opposition, of course, or very understandable. They do feel a problem, but they are in a minority, so they don't get their problem solved. So that's an issue, I think. And another one I noticed is when this municipality is going to look for solutions, they have their advisors and consultants, and mostly they don't have a clue about sociocracy. So even as I work there as an internal consultant, I'm saying, well, I might have a solution. No, we go external with this.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, the consultants is really not always helpful.
No, I recognize that. No.
Yeah,
All
thank you.
right, so we're coming to an end. I want us to have time to transition to the next room and be all prepared. So I want to thank you so much, Rita. That was very inspiring, and it brings me hope. I'm like, oh, it's like the first smaller steps that we could do, and it brings so much impact already. So very, very great to hear something very concrete and applicable with the challenges that you mentioned, of course. So I invite everyone to write some feedback if you have, or gratitudes in the chat, and we can stay for 1 minute and then we're gonna go. And do you want to say your word of the end, Rita? What's the last thing you want us to hear from you?
Yeah, I want to say thank you for this discussion. And yeah, nice to meet you, Rob. I read the article and it was my starting point to go on. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much
Good.
for having me.
Mm-hmm.
And have a great conference, everybody.
Yeah, have a great conference indeed. And you're probably used to the system now, but you can go back to the lobby, and that's where you'll see all the next sessions, and you can choose once again between 4 different options, I believe. So
Where are
Thank
you,
you.
Audrey?
it's in Quebec province, Canada, and the town is called Chersey.
Okay.
It's not sociocratic, but
No, but it looks nice.
there was a citizen committee that tried to be sociocratic, but they
Okay.
didn't at some point. So at least some people
Thank you
heard
for
of
hosting. Goodbye.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye.